Hey everybody. Waiting for some people to pop on. How are y'all doing tonight? I hope everybody had a great Saturday. Obviously mine got away from me. I actually got up this morning and read the book, did my personal development, but life happened. We've had a fantastic day. But we had, I don't know what's on my face. We were outside. There's no telling. I don't know what's on my hair. Anyway. But one thing I will point out, I've had this lip color on all day. It's starting to, inside my lips fade a little bit. But this is through. We've been to the movies and had popcorn and Coke. We went, I've had dinner. I've had lots of water. I drank coffee this afternoon, so just threw a lot of stuff. And this new Splash lip color is fantastic, y'all. So, for the personal development stuff, we've been talking a lot about connecting. And I'm still reading the same book about communication and if you connect in that communication. So, we're just going to continue on that. You want to make sure when you're sharing with people that you can create an experience for them almost. Why would they want to listen to you, right? If you're super boring, nobody wants to listen. I am not one, I have to really know you or I have to really connect with you in order to learn from you. Hey, Andrea. And it's funny to me, I try to keep things brief. Do you know that I got so many messages? The video I did yesterday with all the new splash colors, this is sizzling, by the way. Been on all day, super impressed. But the video I did yesterday with the lip colors, I promised you, so when I first started doing lives, I did them too long. And then I kind of stopped doing them, and now I'm back at it, and my goal is to keep them brief. I kid you not, when I got off that live yesterday and I looked at the clock, because I knew I went live at 2 o'clock. When I went and I saw the clock and I was like, it was 2:50 and I had just got off live and I was like, oh my gosh, was I live that long? And Dylan was like, yeah, you were on a while. And I know I rambled, right? I talked about lip color. We put lip color on, rambled. And even the message that I shared yesterday was about keeping it simple. But I got so many messages. They were like, I love when you ramble. I love to hear you talk. And maybe it's just because I'm more real and I'm not planning these, y'all. Even tonight, I'm popping on. I did this morning. I'm not going to say it was early because I didn't get up early. But I did it this morning before breakfast. I took my notes. I've not looked at it again. We've been going all day. We went to the movies, so the Magnificent Seven. Is that how you say it? Yeah. Magnificent Seven is a really good movie, y'all. We went to see that today. We ran some errands. The sky was beautiful post Hurricane Matthew, y'all. It was beautiful tonight. We saw a double rainbow on the way home, and then when we got home, it looked like the sky was on fire. It was so beautiful. So I posted some really cool pictures of that. And pictures never do that justice, right? But I did share them, so check them out. The errands we ran, we went and got a fire pit to enjoy on the back patio so I can sit in my swing and have a fire going. So we hung out outside because it's beautiful out right now. So ready for fall, right? Anyway, so I'm going to dive right back in, even though I haven't really looked at anything. I don't prepare this, but the goal of this being, I want to share what I'm working on and what I'm learning with you, because I stress the importance of personal development, because I want you to take the time to do it, even if you're just learning from me, and that's okay. So again, we're talking about, I'm sorry, y'all. Stop it. have a cat that I closed in the room with me on accident and it wants out. See, that's real life happening. Did y'all watch my video last night? So the video last night, that was crazy. My son was like peeking through my backdrop and he got blue stuff all on his mouth. You can't make that stuff up, y'all. Alright, so you don't want to be boring. There was a joke. So, I don't know if you know this. My background is in training. And so it's crucial, right? Adult learners are the worst, okay? If you don't know that you're a terrible learner and that you have a short attention span, I just told you. Because adult learners are the worst. But there was a statistic in the book I'm reading. It said they estimate that there's 30 million presentations made every day, like PowerPoints. Do you know how boring it is? And not that PowerPoints are boring, because you can spice them up. And of course, if you don't know now, like I work for an e-learning software company, so I see stuff all the time, like training and how people present their ideas. You know, I get to see a lot of that. But PowerPoints, for the most part, can be boring. And my biggest pet peeve is people who read their PowerPoints. And if you've never had that happen and you don't know what I'm talking about, you're like truly blessed. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you have to take responsibility for who's listening to you. If they don't learn anything from you or they're not interacting, it's not that you have a bad audience. It's that you didn't do a good job of sharing. Because you should be connecting with the right audience, right? If you have an audience, it should be your audience. And it doesn't make them a bad audience. You have to make sure you're connecting with them. So you want to create a memorable experience. You know, have you been somewhere? Like, can you quote back things people said? Do you remember lectures that you sat through in high school or college, y'all? I mean, how memorable is that? Probably not, because most of the time they're boring, right? So make sure you're creating that experience so that it is committed to memory for people. So you want to communicate in a way that they can understand as well. You know, people don't remember what we think is important. They remember what's important to them. So keep that in mind. You have to, again, we keep talking about focusing on your audience, focusing on who's listening, focusing on the other person when you're communicating. And that is the key. Like, you have to understand who they are so that you can communicate effectively with them. And these are some crazy statistics, y'all. You ready for this? People retain about 50% of what they hear. Before an hour has passed, they've lost another 10%. After sleeping, they lose 20%. And by the next, you know, by the time they like get to work or whatever, you know, after like morning activity, they've lost another 10%. So you know those people where you're like, oh, they're probably thinking about it, or they're going to get back with me, or I'm just going to give them time to absorb what I said. No, they're not taking the time to think about it. That's giving them time to forget. So think about that. They only hear 50% of what you said. Within an hour, they've lost another 10%. After they sleep, they've lost another 20%. And by the next time at lunch, let's say, they've lost another 10%. So the percentage of what they've retained in anything you've said, and the chance that they're going to get back with you or use any of that knowledge is pretty slim, y'all. So keep that in mind. So you want to make sure you can capture somebody's attention, because just like when you go live, I mean, if people aren't into it, they're just checking out. They're just like, I didn't really want to watch her. Minimize it down. You know, life is still happening. I don't have time for that right now. Whatever it is. And I'm not titling these to capture. I'm not making them different enough for people to be particular, if that makes sense. I am simply sharing. Again, this is about me. Sharing with you, being vulnerable. but how awesome is it that I'm getting to turn it into something that you can utilize as well. So you're literally like getting to hear me talk out loud to myself almost about some of this stuff. So super cool. So when you're talking to people, you want to make sure that it's interactive, right? Ask questions. Keep their energy up. Like, get them excited. Like, what are you talking about? It should be amazing, right? And even, you know, if you have an audience, or you're speaking for any length of time about whatever, whether it's one-on-one, in a group, you have an audience, keep it interactive, keep them involved, whether that's get up and stretch or let's walk over here, you know, change the scenery, like whatever that means, just keep that in mind, because you want to keep, sometimes physical movement can create that mental energy as well. And so let me throw this at you while we were talking about statistics. You know, we were just talking about those numbers. Statistics are huge, and people like to hear those things, and they can be very powerful in what you're sharing. And then a funny one that they were talking about in this book is to say a shocking statistic that 37.5% of all statistics are made up on the spot. Like, are people just throwing numbers out at you when you think you're hearing something revolutionary? That is hilarious to me. Sorry. So, I'm sorry. I have like a hiccup or something. So, you want to make sure what you're saying is going to stick with the person. You know, you have to be able to connect with that person, know what they need, and you want them to remember it, of course. So, and I do want to point out something. This is a pet peeve of mine, I'll be honest with you. So, I've done a lot of training, taken a lot of classes, learned a lot of material, and then I kind of got burnt out for a bit, and it was because it wasn't the same people. So, you can listen to two different speakers. It doesn't even matter if they're saying the same thing. They kind of throw a different spin on it, right? Because they have different stories. They have different backgrounds. They speak differently. They connect with you differently. But when they're sharing the same content, like, there's like triggers in your brain almost, and you hear that, and then you're just like, I've heard this before. But you have to think about that too. We talked the other day about repetition. And it was very interesting. Dylan and I actually went, was it last Wednesday? Last Wednesday we met with a friend of mine, who's also in network marketing, different company. I don't know where she's at in her business, to be honest with you. We didn't really get into details like that. I just know she has a business. We just connected, as networking friends. As we bounced a lot of ideas off of each other. We talked a lot about personal development. What I found very interesting, she is an audio learner, which again, for me, that's a bridge. I've talked about that some with this, like reading and taking notes and even being able to like audibly share back out with you is really good for me. But just listening to something and being able to retain that is not a good way to learn for me, nor is videos typically. But she says she's an audible learner, and she maximizes the use of her time as well, because she does have a job as well. So she listens to things in her car, like, I don't think she's really gone into audiobooks, but she's like a podcast or likes that. And she was telling me about this podcast she was listening to, and her team had made a promise to each other to listen to this one podcast like 10 times within a week, and then kind of come back together and talk about it. But they kind of made that promise to themselves. And I was literally thinking, what in the heck would be in a podcast that you would want? You know, I was like, what is this podcast like? It's got to be amazing if you're going to listen to one episode 10 times. But it's literally, that's the thing, is the repetition and how you commit it to memory. We talked about this the other day. I don't even know where that's at. Here we go. So, some people have to hear something 16 times before they believe it. And that's crazy. So, they say that the law of learning is repetitiveness, and it has to like sink in at some point in time. So even to keep it simple for you, they break it down into like 3 different times. So the first time you hear it, the second time you recognize it, and the third time it's actually learned. And then of course, as you repeat that again, like it's the same thing, right? Like what if they said 10 points and you only heard once and you only recognized 1 and then you learned 1? Well, there's still 10 more to go. So that was really, and it was just, I actually read this. So that was yesterday. So I had just met with this woman Wednesday, and it's really been just running through my head. Like, I don't know that I've ever just focused on one thing and repeated it over and over again to see what that meant to me, or what, you know, you can listen to something today and tomorrow you're in a different mood. It means something totally different tomorrow. So the whole thing of that repetition and promising to commit to the same thing 10 times, that was pretty big. And again, so now it keeps coming up for me, and I don't know, is it coming up because I need to hear it? Is it coming up because it's a new concept that I'm trying to grasp? Or is it something that I just need to learn, right? So there's that repetition, like it keeps coming up for me. So I'm very curious about pursuing that a little bit further to understand it. But you want to make sure it sticks and that somebody's learning it. So people also connect with things when it's headed towards something that they want. You know, somebody just doesn't want to listen about your dream or what your goals are, or you know, they want to hear your story, but they want to know how they can relate to it. So you have to keep that in mind. Humor is a good way to connect with people as well. Everybody likes to laugh, and a good speaker, and again, in any context, typically can bring humor to the equation. So, and don't be afraid of silence. So pausing is powerful a lot of times. Giving somebody time to think, give somebody time to respond. Don't be afraid of silence. A lot of people are intimidated by silence, and then they try to fill those gaps. And you don't want to do that. You know, there's times when silence is needed, and it's okay to ponder, to wait for a response, to let something sink in. And the funny part about that, so let's say you're doing a one-on-one with somebody. The funny thing about silence in that case is most of the time it's uncomfortable for the other person too. So then they speak up. So if you feel like you're not getting good conversation, or not getting the feedback you want, or getting your questions answered, silence kind of brings somebody out because they get uncomfortable, and then they have to speak just to fill that void. So don't be worried about that. You want to make sure that you're visual, whether that's you draw something, you have a visual, or if it's simply being real and being open and making eye contact. You know, all of those things are important, and it's going to make your learner feel much more connected to you. And then be a storyteller. This is something I'm terrible at as well. I'm just not a storyteller. It's not that I probably don't have stories to go along to make these simpler for people, but it's this book especially. So today's the 8th. That means I'm on the 8th chapter. It's easy because I just started this month, right? That is something that has been a common theme, and that even before this book I knew was something I was weak at, and it is one of the things I would like to be better about, one of the things that will allow me to be more open and vulnerable with you. So I'm definitely hearing that common theme as well as I'm going through this. But make sure, and this is big for me, you know, what would make me stop and want to listen to somebody? So that's the, I can't please everybody, right? I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not somebody everybody wants to listen to, and that's okay. And I'm okay with that. But I can be somebody that I would want to hear. I want to attract the right audience. I want to connect with those people that connect with me. That is my job, right? Like, I'm not going to be for everybody, and everybody's not going to be for me, and that's okay, and I'm okay with that, and you have to be okay with that in your business too. It's okay when people say no. You're just that much closer to the right yes. So just be that person that you would want to connect with, because it also, hello, then you're being authentic, and we've talked about authenticity and how important that is. So be you, be real, be honest, smile, connect with people, and you will not only connect well and communicate well with people, which is what we're talking about, but I keep saying it because it's the same concept. It comes back to that attraction marketing, which is the way I like to market. So I hope that was good. I am sorry that it was so late. I am glad I didn't forget. I am glad I got on here to pop on to share with you. I hope you learned something from that. I hope this has been beneficial to you. If you're watching these and following along and you haven't reached out to me, I would love to hear from you. Whether you comment below, whether you send me a message. It's just really motivating for me as well to know, because I want to do this for you too. So yes, I am selfishly doing this, but I love that it is a way for me to connect with you and allow you into my personal development time so that you do understand. I don't just say do personal development. I'm doing it. Now I'm doing it with you, and I hope that it's a benefit to you as well. So if you just popped on, watch the replay. Hey, I appreciate y'all popping on, and I'm going to continue having a fun Saturday. We're going to hang out now and just have some fun. I'll talk to y'all later.